Hi everybody, Kat here. Welcome to my channel. Well, I've got a question for you this morning. What's it gonna take to get Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign? In his latest stunt, Prime Minister of Canada Justin Trudeau has allowed a Nazi to be celebrated in the Houses of Parliament. Then he lied about his involvement and knowledge of the incident, threw the Speaker of the House under the bus. He's since resigned. And Trudeau's gone on to accuse Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition, the Conservatives here in Canada. He's accusing him of exaggerating and overblowing the whole incident to make Trudeau look bad. Absolutely will not take accountability for anything, let alone just the underlying question, how can this Nazi Yaroslav Hunka in his 90s be living in Canada all this time and never been arrested, never been deported? That's just another question. Now, it's gotten so bad that an MEP, member of the European Parliament, Christine Anderson, calls on Justin Trudeau to resign over this Nazi debacle. And it's not the first time she's called Justin Trudeau to account. We'll get to that in a minute. During the Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa in February of 2022, Justin Trudeau again came under fire by this time two European MEPs, Mislav Kolakusik and Christine Anderson again, they claimed that Trudeau didn't respect the civil rights of Canadians during the Freedom Convoy protests, and indeed he didn't. I was not there, although I did watch the live streams of it, and it was people were recording 24/7 from downtown Ottawa. In the midst of it, there was not one violent incident until Trudeau brought in the police, and cracked down, and there was, they were firing on them, firing smoke. He brought out the horses to one area of protest and trampled a pensioner in her walker. It was just, there had been no violence at all till he got involved. And this is just the kind of thing he does. So, the world's been watching this guy since he came to power. And, it hasn't been a good report card. Recently, India's trade deal with Canada is now on hold after this whole incident. Trudeau was just in India not too long ago, and this was after he'd been called out by the Indian government of fomenting violence and division and interfering with the politics of India itself as a sovereign nation, because you see there's a faction of political activists in India that the Indian government characterize as a terrorist group. Now, this particular group here in Toronto has been protesting in the streets of Toronto for changes they want in India. And even here in Canada, there's Indian immigrants living in Toronto on both sides of the fence of this issue. And so these protests in downtown Toronto even have gotten violent between two factions of Indians. And, of course, this is making news back home in India proper on the continent. And the Indian government isn't too happy with Trudeau allowing this kind of dissension to grow even amongst his own people in Canada, the immigrants in Canada. And Trudeau countered this by saying, by making a statement in response to India's claims, saying, here in Canada, we respect the right to free speech and the right to political freedom and the right to protest, which is, laughable considering the way he treated people during the Freedom Convoy protests. Just horrible, And so this whole India trip was not, the greatest diplomatic feat in history, notwithstanding. Remember when he was supposed to leave and then we were told his plane was delayed by 2 days because of mechanical issues? Well, I'll tell you, I found online an Indian news channel that is reporting that the reason that there was a delay is that they found cocaine. The newscaster was saying this, found cocaine on Trudeau's plane, which he has been rumored to indulge in before. That's not something new. I've heard that before, whether it's true or not, who knows. But I have heard that before. And I mean, we know in previous trips to India, historically, he doesn't have a really great relationship with them. He's made a fool of himself. They thought of him as a buffoon. His last trip to India, he brought his family, and there's photographs of them all dressed up in sort of Indian traditional garb. It was embarrassing and, perhaps insulting. It was just, they thought he was a buffoon. Now they're starting to realize that he's a dangerous buffoon. He's he's a dictator. He's a wannabe dictator. Absolutely. And if he gets his way, the way he treats Parliament with contempt anyway and just goes and does what he wants. And it's easy to kind of skate results of investigations over shady dealings when, the people you appoint to lead the investigation have a vested interest in your success. So, this is kind of how he runs government with his cronies. Payoffs, I think, and I'm sure there's blackmail in there as well. You do, as I say, kind of, he's an evil guy, face of a cherub, kind of, but pure evil, in my opinion. And his behavior time and time and time again, in the way that he treats not only us Canadians, but everybody around the world. He kind of treats them with contempt, and he just goes and says and does what he wants and laughs at his detractors. We know that he is an acolyte of Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum. You can see the influence in in that with the policies that Canada's come out with, the movement of society, notwithstanding all of these incidences that I've just mentioned, recently, within the last week, across the country, there's been protest after protest for the children. Parents are coming out by the millions in every major city in Canada protesting the gender-based kind of education that's going on in the schools now. They don't want it. They don't want their kid to be able to go to school and change his pronoun without the parents knowing. You know, leave home as a boy, go to school, and he's a girl, and the parents aren't notified. Parents are objecting to the curricula that is being applied regarding gender ideology to very, very young people that, you know, notwithstanding it being inappropriate, it's just wrong, and the people are coming out and protesting it in droves. These protests are getting almost no airtime in Canada. Almost none. What they've done in some cities to try to counteract the effect of the parental protests is that they're hiring transgenders and drag queens and this kind of come out and counter protest and say, oh, they're haters, this is hate speech. You know, it's not. This is not what it's about. It's keep your hands off our children, damn you. That's what it's about. And, you know, so a lot of people around the world consider Canadians kind of meek and friendly and polite. But I tell you, when the chips are down, we will protest for weeks on end in 20 below temperatures outside to make our point. We will come out by the millions in city upon city in Canada to save our children. The world is noticing, I must say, because I do look at news from around the world, the world is noticing that something's happening. The world is noticing the tyrant that Trudeau's become, and the world is noticing the way that Canadians are starting to stand up against it. And so I think as Trudeau loses respect on the international stage, the people of Canada are gaining the world's respect, and therefore may foster some intervention, perhaps, and helping us deal with this plight that we call Justin Trudeau. Will all of this worldwide outrage at his latest antics be enough to make Justin Trudeau resign? Let's hope so. Have a great day, everybody. Like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you're thinking about all of this, too. Bye for now.